Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The blade pressed against my carotid artery didn't terrify me half as much as the sudden, overwhelming scent of ozone and crushed pine that flooded the narrow alleyway. The biological signal of an apex alpha claiming his territory, and worse, claiming me. Rain lashed against the neon-lit pavement of District 4, slick with oil and grime. But the heat radiating from the man pinning me to the brick wall was enough to evaporate the droplets before they touched his skin. I was Julian Vane, the syndicate's most elusive shadow, a man who had chemically neutered his own pheromones for a decade to remain invisible. But as I looked into the eyes of Cassian Blackwood, the High Inquisitor, the executioner of my people, and the monster currently holding a jagged combat knife to my throat, my body betrayed centuries of evolution. My suppressants shattered under the sheer weight of his presence. Fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. Of all the souls in this godforsaken city, the universe had decided to bind mine to the one man born to destroy it. 3 hours earlier, the night had been deceptively calm. The annual Solstice Gala was the kind of event where the champagne cost more than a human life in the lower districts. The ballroom of the Celestial Palace was a cavern of gold leaf and crystal, suffocating under the heavy, perfumed scents of the city's elite. To them, pheromones were a status symbol, a way to broadcast dominance or allure. To me, they were noise. I adjusted the collar of my stiff dress shirt, feeling the familiar, dull ache in my glands where the silence, the illegal suppressant drug I injected weekly, did its work. I was a beta on paper. A ghost. My objective was simple. Infiltrate the private study of High Inquisitor Cassian Blackwood, locate the decrypted list of syndicate safehouses, and vanish before the waltz ended. Target is moving to the terrace, came the crackled voice of Rix, my handler, through the micro-earpiece. You have a 10-minute window, Julian. Don't get greedy. I'm never greedy, Rix. Just efficient, I murmured, blending into the crowd. I moved like smoke, slipping past intoxicated aristocrats and security guards who looked right through me. That was the gift of being a fabricated beta. You were background noise. I reached the heavy oak doors of the study. The electronic lock was military grade, encrypted with shifting algorithms. It should have taken an hour to crack. I did it in 30 seconds using a localized EMP emitter, a risky move, crude and loud on the digital spectrum, but I had no time for finesse. If anyone asks why a master thief would use a brute force EMP, simple, Blackwood's firewall was adaptive. Finesse triggers the AI learning model. Brute force shocks it into a 3-second reboot. That was all I needed. I slipped inside. The study was dark, smelling of old paper and the sharp, metallic tang of gun oil. I moved to the desk, my fingers flying over the holographic terminal. Found it. I was downloading the file when the hair on the back of my neck stood up. It wasn't a sound. It was a change in the air pressure, a heaviness that settled in the lungs. I froze, the download at 98%. You have nimble fingers for a waiter, a voice said from the shadows. It was a baritone that vibrated through the floorboards, dark and smooth like velvet dragged over gravel. I didn't turn. I yanked the drive free and bolted for the balcony doors. Glass shattered. A gunshot rang out, missing my ear by a millimeter. I vaulted over the railing, plummeting 3 stories down into the hedgerows below. The impact jarred my teeth, but adrenaline, that sweet nectar, flooded my veins. I scrambled up and ran. I ran until my lungs burned, weaving through the labyrinthine streets of the mid-levels, heading for the extraction point in District 4. I thought I had lost him. I was Julian Vane. No one caught me. But I had never been hunted by a prime alpha before. I turned into the blind alleyway, expecting to see Rix's transport. Instead, I saw a dead end. And then, I felt him. It hit me like a physical blow, a wave of dominance, so potent it nearly forced me to my knees. It was instinctual, archaic fear. I spun around, drawing my vibro-knife. Cassian Blackwood stood at the mouth of the alley. He wasn't even winded. His tuxedo jacket was gone, his sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and scarred from 100 battles. But it was his eyes that froze me, glowing with a predatory luminescence, the pupils blown wide. You smell. Cassian took a step forward, his brow furrowing in genuine confusion. You smelled like nothing. Like dust. And now, the silence was failing. The stress of the chase, combined with the proximity to a compatible alpha, was metabolizing the drug faster than my liver could handle. The scent I had hidden for 10 years, the distinct, sweet aroma of night-blooming jasmine and rain, began to seep out. Stay back, I snarled, backing up until my spine hit the damp brick. Cashin didn't listen. He moved with a speed that defied physics, closing the distance in a heartbeat. He slammed me against the wall, his forearm crushing my chest, his knife at my throat. This was the moment. The hook. The realization. He inhaled sharply, his nose grazing the sensitive skin below my ear. His body went rigid. The knife in his hand trembled, not from weakness, but from a war being fought between his training and his biology. Omega, he breathed, the word sounding like a curse. You're an Omega. I'm your enemy. I choked out, struggling to reach the dagger in my boot. Kill me and get it over with. Cashin pulled back slightly to look at me. The cold, calculating malice usually present in the High Inquisitor's gaze was fracturing. In its place was something hotter, darker, and infinitely more dangerous. The biological imperative. The fated bond. It was a myth told to children, a fairy tale about souls finding their other halves. In reality, it was a chain. I can't, he whispered, a look of horror dawning on his face. He pressed his forehead against mine, his breathing ragged. Gods damn you, why can't I strike? Because you're weak, I spat, trying to knee him in the gut. He caught my leg effortlessly, pinning it to the wall with his hip. The contact sent a shock wave of electric heat through my nervous system. My knees buckled. A whimper, humiliating and involuntary, escaped my throat. Not weak, Cashin growled, his voice dropping into the commanded register that forced obedience. Asterisk yours, asterisk. The word hung in the rain-slicked air between us. I am going to arrest you, Julian Vane, Cashin said, his voice straining. I am going to drag you to the Citadel. I will interrogate you. I will dismantle your syndicate. Then do it, I challenged, though my heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Put me in chains. Cashin's hand moved from my throat to cup my jaw, his thumb brushing over my lower lip. The roughness of his calloused skin against my softness was a sensory overload. The chains, he murmured darkly, leaning in until his lips hovered over mine, are already there. He didn't kiss me. He bit me. Not on the mating gland. He had enough restraint for that, but on the junction of my neck and shoulder. A warning bite. A claim of temporary ownership. The pain was sharp, but the pleasure that chased it was terrifying. It was a rush of endorphins that made my vision blur. You are under arrest, he said, pulling back, his eyes burning gold. And if you ever try to run from me again, I will tear this city apart brick by brick until I find you. Do you understand? I glared at him, panting, the rain plastering my hair to my face. I hated him. I hated the government he served, the blood on his hands, and the arrogance of his caste. But as the bond settled into my bones, knitting our auras together in an invisible, ironclad knot, I realized the terrifying truth. I could escape his prison cells. I could escape his city. But I would never, ever escape him. The interrogation room in the Citadel was stark white, sterile, and cold. It was designed to break the mind through sensory deprivation. I had been sitting in the metal chair for 6 hours, hands cuffed to the table with dampening shackles that neutralized my ability to use any hidden tech. But they hadn't neutralized the scent. If anything, the enclosed space concentrated it. When the heavy steel door finally hissed open, the air in the room shifted. Cashin walked in. He had changed out of his gala attire into his field uniform, black tactical gear that emphasized the width of his shoulders and the lethality of his frame. He didn't bring a dossier. He didn't bring a torture kit. He brought a cup of coffee. He set it down in front of me. Black. 2 sugars. That's how you drank it when you were surveillance watching the East Gate last winter. I stared at the steam rising from the cup. You knew? I know every move the syndicate makes, Julian. I let you run because you were insignificant. He pulled out the chair opposite me and sat, leaning forward. You are no longer insignificant. Because of biology? I scoffed, trying to summon my usual bravado. Save the romantic poetry, Inquisitor. We're on opposite sides of a war. I steal your secrets, you execute my friends. A little pheromone spike doesn't change that. It changes everything, Cashin said, his voice low. Do you know what happens if the Emperor finds out an unregistered Omega infiltrated the palace? An Omega who is? He paused, struggling with the words. Linked to his High Inquisitor? I imagine he'd have us both shot, I said dryly. Though he might make you watch me die first. That seems his style. Cashin's jaw tightened. He would vivisect you. He would use you to control me. And I would burn the Empire to the ground to stop him. The intensity of his statement silenced me. The silence stretched, heavy and charged. Why? I asked finally. You don't know me. You hate what I am. I don't know, Cashin admitted, running a hand through his dark hair. It was the first time I had seen him look vulnerable. When I look at you, I don't see a rebel. I see the missing piece. It's illogical. It's madness. But when I held that knife to your throat, my wolf was screaming that if I hurt you, I would die. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the data drive I had stolen. He placed it on the table. The list of safe houses, he said. I tensed. Go ahead. Upload it. Send the death squads. Cashin watched me for a long moment. His eyes traced the line of my jaw, the bruise forming where he had pinned me, the defiant set of my mouth. Then, slowly, he took the drive in his hand and crushed it. The plastic and circuitry shattered in his grip. He brushed the debris onto the floor. My mouth fell open. That was your career. That was your loyalty. My loyalty has shifted, Cashin said, standing up. He walked around the table until he stood behind me. I felt the heat of his body, the power radiating from him. He leaned down, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. I am going to let you go, Julian. I froze. What? The security feeds have been looped. The guards are on a shift change I orchestrated. You have 5 minutes to get out the service exit. Why? I whispered. Because this isn't how I want to win, he murmured. And because I need you to trust me. The war is coming, little ghost. The Emperor is planning something that will wipe out the districts entirely. Not even the Syndicate knows. He unlocked my cuffs. The metal clicked open, and my hands were free. I stood up, rubbing my wrists, turning to face him. He looked like a statue of a fallen god. Beautiful, terrifying, and tragic. You're letting me go, I said, but we're fated. You know the pain of separation will drive you insane. I can handle pain, Cashin said, though his eyes darkened. What I cannot handle is you in a cage. He reached out, his hand hovering near my face, then dropped it. Go. Before I change my mind and lock you in my quarters forever. I hesitated. Every survival instinct screamed at me to run. But something else, that treacherous, ancient bond, made me step closer. This isn't over, Cashin, I said softly. No, he agreed, his gaze devouring me. It's just beginning. Next time we meet, Julian, I won't be letting you walk away. I will catch you, and I will keep you. You can try, Alpha. I smirked, backing toward the door. I won't just try, he vowed. I slipped out into the corridor, my heart racing faster than it ever had during a heist. I ran through the service tunnels, out into the cool night air of the city. As I blended back into the shadows of the lower districts, the scent of pine and ozone still clung to my skin, marking me. I looked back at the looming spire of the citadel. The enemy was no longer just a faceless regime. He was a man with golden eyes who had crushed his duty for the sake of my life. I touched the spot on my neck where he had bitten me. It throbbed, a phantom heartbeat against my own. The game had changed. I wasn't just fighting for the rebellion anymore. I was fighting against a destiny that wanted to consume us both. And as I disappeared into the night, I knew one thing for certain. The Viper had indeed crossed paths with the wolf. And neither of us would ever be the same. And that is how the Viper tamed the wolf, by simply existing and letting fate do the rest. If you enjoyed seeing the ruthless High Inquisitor Cashin lose all control for his fated enemy, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, if you were Julian, would you trust the man who hunted you? Or would you use his obsession to destroy him from the inside? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt. Masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art, 2 men, BL, Yaoi, Man 1. Julian, Omega, slim but athletic build, messy silver hair, terrified but defiant expression, wearing torn waiter tuxedo, Pressed against brick wall, rain-soaked skin, glowing blue eyes. Man 2. Cashin, alpha, tall muscular build, dark hair slicked back. Predatory expression with glowing gold eyes. Wearing black tactical gear over tuxedo shirt, holding combat knife. Near Julian's throat, pinning him to wall. Background is dark, rainy cyberpunk alleyway with neon signs reflecting on wet pavement. Intense dramatic lighting, emotional tension, sharp focus, cinematic composition.